Happy Tuesday, everybody. Kristen here with Bariatric Mindset, and I am talking to you guys today about the difference in your emotion versus your feelings. So, weight loss tip Tuesday, weight loss surgery tip Tuesday. I posted a picture in the group about emotion versus feelings and how your emotions are connected to your body and your feelings are connected to your mind or your brain. Okay, so another distinction that I want to share with you, which I think is very interesting for people to know, and I just had it pulled up on my laptop, is that a lot of times our mood is a culmination of an emotional state over time, right? Versus our emotions can be separate, right? So our mood is impacted by our emotions over time, but our emotions about a specific situation are what we might call not static. So it's changeable, right? So our mood can be something that levels off over time. So if somebody's experiencing a depressed mood, that would be a low mood that they experience over time as a culmination of many emotions or many feelings. And so it's important to know the distinction between the two. So the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because, this is the time of year when a lot of people tend to have a low mood, right? So a lot of people have like seasonal affective disorder, or they get discouraged. I don't know if you guys know, but mid-January is actually the lowest point of the year for many people because, psychologically or historically, what happens is people set expectations for themselves for January, and then they don't meet them, they don't reach them because they've set these really, really high expectations for themselves. And so I think it's important that we talk about our mood, we talk about our emotions, we talk about our feelings, because there are changes, right? There are waves that come and go. And it's important that we get control of our emotions and we work on yes, totally. Yes. And I have talked about that before and I can talk about that again. But it's important that we get control of our emotions, because if we let our emotions control us, then actually what's happening is there are all of these physiological reactions in our body that we don't even know are happening, which is what Val was just posting about, which is stress and cortisol. So if we let stress run us instead of us going, okay, I need to learn how to calm myself, soothe myself by not using food, but by using, emotional techniques and tools and strategies, then you are then getting control of the emotions, right? You're getting control of yourself. You're using the tools to work on this and this, instead of letting the emotions and your brain kind of like run the show. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. Believe me, this is not as sexy as the food. I mean, I know that a lot of people like to see the food, and I get that, and it's not as sexy, but I promise you, once you guys like work these different techniques that I've shared in the book and that I'm sharing with you today, you're going to see a world of difference, because it's not just about the food. I swear I say that all the time. It's not just about the food. It is about the food because you need to be eating healthy, right? But the thing is that if you're eating at the wrong times, or if you're eating too much, or if you're grazing, which is behavioral, then it's just like, it's counterproductive. So it's like, why even worry about it? So body emotion. So here's what I talk about, and I talked about in my talk at OH. So that was motivation through the ups and downs of life. If you want to see that talk, I've posted it on YouTube. Have at it. And if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I have many more videos coming. And I'm really excited because I'm recording some this weekend about emotional eating and things like that. But I'm talking about self-love. I just released one on overcoming a stall, so there's lots of good stuff to come. Anyway, subscribe. So emotion, it is emotion is held within the body. It is energy in motion. And so the reason that we talk about emotion, energy in motion within the body, is that if you have emotion that is stuck in the body, you're not getting it out. So when I think of energy in motion, I think of somebody who's, let's say, here's an example, somebody who's really angry and they're like, and they're like, so when you think about that, the body constricts, right? So there are all of these physiological things that are happening. Same thing if you're stressed. And anxiety. Anxiety typically happens in the chest or in the stomach, right? Or in the shoulders. So a lot of times what I'll do with my clients who come in the office is I'll say, where do you feel that in your body? Where do you feel that in your body? So here's an amazing practice that you can use. Where do I feel this in my body? Right? And if you're feeling it in your body, then you're getting an emotional reaction. Feelings happen in the head, but feelings, so there's like a whole other chart, like your thoughts create your emotions, which create your actions or behaviors, which then create your habits, which then create your lifestyle, which then creates your long-term outcome, or, some people can call it your destiny. That's like a whole other chart. However, hey, Tina. So really, sometimes thoughts create the emotion, but not always, because I have worked with people, and even myself, I've experienced things where you just wake up and you're like super anxious and you're like, why do I feel this way? So, or you could have a mood, right? So people who have mood disorders, right? So when you have a mood disorder, it's not always that your thoughts create your feelings. Sometimes it can, because there's what we call negative cyclical self-talk that's happening inside your brain, but not always. Sometimes you can have just the neuroreceptors in your brain. You're not firing as many, your dopamine and serotonin are not as high, right? So when we talk about serotonin and dopamine, everybody has a normative level, right? So my norm may be different from your norm, but there are like what we call normal levels of dopamine and serotonin. People who need antidepressants need to kind of like raise their serotonin and their dopamine because it's too low, right? And the reason that sometimes people emotionally eat is because they have lower levels of dopamine or serotonin, and so they're looking for that dopamine hit in their brain. And so that's where sometimes emotional eating can come from, or it's a habit of, okay, I need a jolt of this neurotransmitter. But by the way, nobody thinks that. So I didn't know that for many years. So nobody thinks like, oh, I need a dopamine hit. Like, no, you just think, I want something to soothe me. And you go and you get something that's going to soothe you. And then that becomes the habit. So what we want to do is shift the habit and also teach you on how to deal with emotions, right? So feelings are things that are, well, both feelings and emotions are temporary. Moods are things that last over time. And so that's why I always say, if you need to reach out to a psychiatrist or reach out to your PCP or reach out to a psychologist who can prescribe meds, if that is something you need. I am not a pill pusher, and I am not someone who recommends medicine for everybody, because not everybody needs it. And it's important to understand the distinction of where you are in your own mental and emotional health, right? So what I'm trying to give you is more practical tools of how to integrate these things in your day-to-day life, and then, of course, not use food to soothe, right? So feelings will pop up, and feelings can come from the thought patterns, or they can come from specific circumstances that are external. Okay, so for example, your boss yells at you. So then the feeling in your mind is, uh-oh, I did something wrong, which then can then translate into the body of, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? And then there's anxiety, and then there's, it leads to this cycle back and forth, which is why the picture in the group goes, feelings go to emotions and emotions go to feelings. So it becomes this cycle of the brain communicating with the body. So we do have a huge mind-body connection. It's important that we acknowledge that. So then what we want to do is not only to calm down the brain, but also calm down the body, right? So this is why what you may think is, well, how do I calm down the body? Well, whenever you're in an anxious state, typically what's happening is you're having energy that is blocked within the body because you're holding it in, because, you know, the tension rises and you don't know where to put it. So one of the things that I will recommend to my clients is get out of your head and into your body. So what does that mean? So that means go for a walk, do some jumping jacks. I mean, if you're not able to do these things, obviously don't do them. Like, I have a client who is like chair bound, and one of the things that, well, when we talk on Zoom, because we video conference, is she's like, I watched your video the other day and you said to walk and I can't walk. And I'm like, I know that wasn't specifically for you. Like, move your arms. So it's important that you do what you can do for you, right? The purpose is to get your body in motion so that you can release the tension, so that you can release the anxiety, and to help boost those neurotransmitters. Because again, whenever you are moving your body, you're increasing the endorphins, which helps not only to make you feel happier, but it also helps to regulate the neurotransmitters, and it helps to release, and I know this is going to sound silly when I say release negativity, but basically what you're releasing is, you're releasing that anxiety, you're releasing whatever's stuck in your body. Plus, when you're moving your body, it helps to clear your head, right? So And I'm sure that you guys have noticed this. Have you ever gone for a walk or gone to the gym and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better? So people with low moods, when you don't move, it stays stuck. And the cycle of negative cyclical thinking, it is not completely going to be solved by moving your body. We've also got to change the way that you think about things. But this is one specific step. So get moving, pace your house. You know, if you're able to walk, move your arms, do something to get yourself out of that, you know, to release whatever feelings, whatever emotions are happening in your body, and then the feelings that are going on in your head. So, and then also, we also want to reality test it. Okay. Is this absolutely true? Okay. So my boss yelled at me, and so that means I suck. And I'm using this one because this is one that my clients bring to me a lot. Okay. No, it doesn't mean that you suck. It could be that your boss is having a bad day. But a lot of times what we do, I'm still live. A lot of times what we do is we internalize and we make things about us, and it may not be about us at all. So what I want you guys to do is this really about me? Is this about me? Is this thing that I'm feeling about me, or is it about something else? And so we also have to look at our locus of control, what we have control over and what we don't have control over, right? What do we have control over? We have control over us. We have control over what we do, right? We don't have control over what other people do. We only have control over us. And so there are things that are going to affect us that we don't have any control over, that we are not actively able to control. And so that's also where we have to release that, right? But again, that can cause an emotion within your body, and you've got to work through that. Likewise, it could create feelings inside your, thoughts inside your head, which then create feelings like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I think about this. So like, thoughts and feelings can sometimes be interchangeable, and then emotions are within the body. So, anyways, so that is something that it's important to recognize. Are you guys getting this? So there's a couple different, and I know there's a couple different like steps, but it's important to know, what am I feeling, right? What am I thinking? How is this affecting me? And then try to look at it from in a specific situation where it's like a boss or colleague or work. Like, is this about me? Is this not about me? And same thing with family. Like, I see a lot of families that are like, oh, well, so-and-so said this and there's miscommunication. So that still may not be about you, but you may internalize. So there could be stressors that happen that aren't necessarily about you, but you take them on because that's something you've always done. Right? So it's important that you recognize, and that's why I'm big on journaling, because it's another way for you to get out of your head and to objectively look at what you're thinking and feeling, right? And I also said this in my talk at Obesity Help as a tool that I give to people, is I will say, voice record yourself. and listen back. Like if you're having a really crappy day, be like, oh my gosh, this happened today, da 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 da. And then play it back and listen objectively and compassionately and be like, okay, so what is she struggling with? So like step outside yourself and go, wow, okay, what would I tell this person? It's you. What would I tell this person if this was my best friend? How would I have them deal with it, right? So this is where you're compassionately listening to yourself in a different manner, because when you're inside your head, you can't listen to yourself, right? So when we're inside our own heads, there is no filter. And that's another reason why negative cyclical self-talk is so pervasive. And what I mean by negative cyclical self-talk, because I know I'm talking in therapy terms, it's kind of like, oh my God, you're so fat. Oh my God, you're so ugly. Oh my gosh, you haven't lost any weight. You're such a effing loser. Like, would you say that to someone you loved? Would you say that to your best friend? No, but those are the things that go on inside here. Those are the things that we tell ourselves. Those are the things that, oh, I told you it was because you had that chocolate on Wednesday. You know, can't keep your hands off that. You're always going to be blah, 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 blah. These are the nasty, horrible things that people say inside their heads, okay? And you've got to be a lot more encouraging and a lot more compassionate with yourself, because the beat 'em up doesn't really get you anywhere. It just makes you feel more crappy. And then what it does is it pushes it down into that emotional body. And so the stuff that goes here, that's repeated in here, that cycles through here, then gets put in the body. And then, who was it? Val, I learned the hard way that stress and cortisol can completely stall weight loss. Yes, yes, yes. So when I was at conference last year and I listened to a bariatrician speak, so he was not a surgeon, he was just a bariatrician, so a weight loss specialist, an obesity specialist. And he said the two things that cause regain more than anything else, are you with me? The two things, stress and sleep. Stress and sleep. A lack of sleep and too much stress. And what was really powerful, and I said this in my talk, and it was really, it's impactful, is that when you go through the fight-flight process and when you experience heights of stress and you release cortisol into the bloodstream, the other thing you're releasing into the bloodstream is glucose. And if you're not burning that glucose, where does it get stored? As fat. So, these are the things that we want to pay attention to. This is why stress and your emotional state is important to regulate, not just in terms of, I don't want to emotionally eat, which is one thing, but the other thing is practicing emotional regulation and self-regulation in terms of your mood and stress levels, because if you're constantly in a state of fight-flight, if you're constantly in a state of stress, then your body is not able to actually function, because it's constantly in this state of, oh my gosh, you know, your adrenals are going, your body's not getting the oxygen it needs, and then it's just going, and you're not really able to release the fat because it's actually counterproductive. It's telling your body like, okay, we have to store because we don't know what's going to happen next. Like, doesn't that seem logical? Like if you're constantly in a state of stress, then your body's like, okay, we have to like save up for winter because we don't know what's going to happen. It's like the psychology of the physiology. It's like creating, I know it sounds crazy. But this is like, we don't know, like we only know what's going on in here and what's going on outside of ourselves. We're not like, I've studied what happens within the body and within the mind-body connection, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. So if we can like lower our stress levels, and not from an external point, because again, we don't have control over what other people do. We have control over how we respond, right? So if we're able to shift what's happening within us, there can be a cyclone going on around us. And if we're able to manage what's happening within us, then we're fine. But it's also learning how to manage your own stress and gaining these coping skills. Okay, so what are some coping skills, right? Because that's what you want to know. First of all, watch the self-talk. We're not going to be able to watch the self-talk 24/7 because it's impossible to like monitor your brain 24/7, and it would be exhausting, absolutely exhausting. What is important is that you need to catch yourself when you're talking negatively. So step 1, speak more compassionately to yourself. Number 2, check, is this going on in my head? Is this going on in my body? Right? So practicing awareness. You guys know I'm the awareness queen. I want everybody to practice awareness because that's the first step. So, is this happening in my head? Is it happening in my body? And literally 30 seconds is all it's going to take to go, where am I feeling this? And can I release it through some breaths? Can I release it? Because I know people are like, okay, so what's my tool for this? And I'm like, have you, breathing? And they're like, that's too easy. It's easy. And the more you do it, the more that you'll see it is super easy. But we also have tools, and sometimes we never use them. So implementing the tools that you have is important, right? So, that next part of that step is, can I breathe it? Can I breathe it out? Can I release the tension or the stress or the anxiety or the frustration or whatever it is through my breath, right? If you're able to do that, easy peasy lemon squeezy, awesome, you're done. If not, then I would say get your body in motion to release it, right? That's the next step is, okay, I need to go for a walk. I need to go to the bathroom, right? So usually that's another way to release it. And there are some more advanced. Clearly, some of these you're not going to be able to just, do in 3 seconds. And there's some deeper work to be done. I'm trying to give you guys the ones that are super quick that you can kind of okay, walk around, do some jumping jacks, do something to get your heart rate up, because the minute you can get your heart rate up, then typically they shift really quickly. And, all of us have bad days. I remember, I think it was yesterday morning. I personally was just having a really rough morning, and, I went to the gym just like I normally would, and I really didn't want to be there. And that's another part of pushing through. Sometimes there are things that you just don't want to do, and you've just got to do them anyway. And so I went, and I was like, no, this is going to be good for me. I've got to do this. I know this is going to shift my energetic state, and this is going to shift, my emotional state, because I could feel things stuck, and was on the elliptical, was on the treadmill, lifted some weights. And by the time I left the gym, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So this is the thing too, which it's not necessarily a number for this video. There are things that we can know cognitively. There are things that we can know in our brain, and we still need to follow through on them. Just because we know something doesn't mean that we're doing it, right? Because there's a total difference between knowing and doing, right? So I know people, I'm sure every single one of us on here could freaking be a nutritionist or a dietitian. All of us know what to eat, and oh, what do I eat? Well, protein, duh. All of us know what to eat. With all of my experience in dieting over the years, I probably have a PhD in nutrition. I literally don't. I promise I don't. But because of my expertise in, dieting and all of that stuff, and going through it over the years, it's like a joke. I probably have a PhD in nutrition. But I don't. But knowing it and doing it were always two different things for me. I knew what to do, but there were a lot of times that I wasn't applying what I knew. Okay. So that's where the what is it? The pedal meets the metal, or the rubber hits the road. You've got to follow through on what you know cognitively. And so for me yesterday, I knew that the gym would help me, but that didn't make it easier to go. Right? So sometimes we have to bust through that emotional state, right? Which is what I'm talking about today. Bust through that emotional state by going, what does my body, what does my emotional state, what is needed of me to change that state, to shift that state? Because I'm either going to sit here and wallow and it's going to get worse, or I'm going to do something different to challenge that emotional state and to get better. Are you guys with me? Does this make sense? I know anyway. So, You've got to get in motion. You've got to get in action. You've got to challenge the negative Nellies. You've got to challenge the emotional funk, and to recognize that the thoughts and the feelings are connected to the emotions, and they kind of cycle through. So the things that you say up here that are kind of automatic, thoughts, end up in your body, and they end up down here. So what we want to do is purge them, and also give you tools and techniques, which, I just gave you a couple different ones to use to shift. Totally. See, I know, I didn't want to be there, and I went, and I feel so much better for it, and you do too. So we've got to just kind of like push through it and be like, I'm doing this, right? And so that's the difference in knowing and doing, right? We know things, and we still need to do them, right? We still need to do them. So emotion, energy in motion, you can feel it in your body, and yes, it can be stuck, and that still means it's in motion because it's kind of like reverberating around, and you've got to get it out. So what I would do, and what I suggest, is you get your body in motion to release it. And the same thing, encouraging thoughts. So, and I'm sure you've heard this before, and it's nothing new, but what you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. So the old us, right? The old me, I remember I used to eat crap food. Now I'm a lot more healthy with my choices, and you guys are too. So again, what you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. So if you put negative crap in here, right, negative cyclical self-talk, then it's going to bring your mood down. It's going to bring your emotional state down. So when you do things that are more healthy for here and for here, you're going to get better things out. What you put in is what you get out. So again, this is about nourishing your mind in addition to nourishing your body. So I hope that this has been helpful to show you how your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are connected, the mind-body connection, and how you can use tools to shift them. Does anybody have any questions? I have a client in 10 minutes, so I wanted to pop on here before I did that. So I hope that you guys are having an amazing day. If you guys have any questions, post them in the comments, but this is your WLS Tip Tuesday. Wanted to pop on with a video to kind of explain a little deeper than just post a picture and be like, yeah, your thoughts and your feelings are connected, dude. So you're very welcome. And again, if you guys haven't seen the motivational talk that I gave at OH, feel free to hit it on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe. And thank you again, everyone, for contributing to my survey. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions about this specific video, again, post them in the comments below. Mwah. Happy Tuesday. Bye.